Today we're going to make stovetop homemade mac and cheese. We're going to use just some generic elbows here, whatever brand you like. We're also going to use a mixture of American and sharp cheddar. I'm going to cook it in a pan rather than a pot. And we're going to start it off with 1.5 cups of whole milk and then 1 cup of water. And that's what you're going to cook the pasta in. That way you're kind of cooking it in the base of the sauce to start with. It's going to take a little bit of adjustment. It might need a little more water towards the end of it, but we'll find out. And now we're just going to grate the cheese. You can use just 8 ounces of regular sharp cheddar, but your cheese will bind up so quickly the second it gets even the slightest bit cool. So from my friend Kenji Lopez Alt, we're going to mix in some Dijon mustard and some American cheese, and that's what helps really emulsify this and make it a little more stable. It's obviously going to break over time. Not break, but it's going to solidify and it won't be as beautiful and creamy. But we're just going to mix 4 ounces of the sharp cheddar, and then I'm going to cut up a bunch of these slices of the American for about 4 ounces also. If you can find the American in brick form, definitely get that and box grate that. That is the preferred way to go. I just couldn't find any at my store, so we're going to make do with this. Once the liquid gets warm, you don't even need it boiling yet, add that pasta in, and we're just going to cook this until it is just about al dente. Probably will take as long as the box says. Doesn't really change the cooking time because of the milk mixture. But I know this is also not the knife for doing this, but this is just what I had out on the board. I don't feel like dirtying something else, so don't be at me in the comments that I'm using a steak knife here to chop up cheese. But once you get those two nice and chopped up, and everything else is mixing in the pot over there, it's kind of just a waiting game. I'm going to also take a little bit of parm, and I'm going to grate a little parm into the sharp cheddar mixture. I think it'll give it a nice little salty taste. It'll be a different kind of profile. You don't need to do this. You can mix in whatever you want. You could also use any type of cheese you want. The American cheese is just kind of what helps with the emulsification as well as the Dijon. But your flavoring cheese, you could use Monterey Jack. You could use whatever you want. But just keep that pasta moving in the pan. Since you're using a deeper pan here, it will have a tendency to kind of stick to the bottom, and you just want to keep it moving. As the water and the milk evaporate, there'll be less and less liquid in there. So you just want to keep trying to keep everything moving. Like, so you can see now this is after 5-7 minutes. A lot of the liquid is gone, so you got to kind of just keep things moving. That way the pieces that are above liquid don't stay above for too long. But this is right about what I'm looking for. I just tasted a piece. It was perfect. So at this point, we're going to go ahead and add in that American cheese, and we're going to get that nice and in there. I'm also going to add a little bit of paprika at this stage. You could use smoked or regular, whatever flavor profile you want. But just get all that cheese in, add that paprika. And then I'm also going to put in a tiny bit of Dijon. This is maybe a tablespoon worth. Dijon helps with the emulsification. And then we're going to mix this together. You want this thoroughly mixed together, and you want that cheese melted before you add in the other cheese, because this is going to work kind of as an emulsification binder to make sure that when the cheddar melts down, it creates a nice sauce rather than just gets clumpy and gross. But this was looking a little tighter than I want right now, so I'm going to salt it real quick, and then I'm going to add in just a fraction bit of more milk because I don't want it so tight at this stage. You want it a little bit looser now because the more cheese you add, the tighter it's going to get. So just that's the overall vibe you want. You want to see some liquid on the bottom, a nice cheesy sauce. Try to keep that. If you need to be adding milk, that's totally fine. It's not going to break your sauce. But once you got that all mixed, you could eat this on its own right now. It's not as good, but at this point I'm going to add in the sharp cheddar and the parm. Mix it a little bit. You don't want to mix this completely to melt here because it'll get oily and grainy. So mix it, evenly distribute it, and then throw the lid on. Once you throw that lid on, let it sit for 5 or so minutes, and you'll be good to go. It'll start to melt on its own. Here we are popping that lid back off. I'm going to turn the heat back on very slightly, just so as I mix it now, there's a little bit of warmth in it. The heat's been off this whole time. You're just letting it melt. But that's perfect. Your cheddar has melted. Your parm has melted. Everything's come together kind of beautifully to form this great cheese sauce. At this point, I would recommend tasting, adding a little more salt if you need it. Mine definitely did. I'm also going to add a little bit of pepper in a bit. You don't need to add any of this. If you think that it's salty enough from the cheese you used, that is totally fine. If you don't like pepper in your mac and cheese, totally fine. This is also my stovetop version. There is another version that I'll do later on where you can make a roux and all that other fun stuff, and then you bake it, and it's a way different dish. This is just a quick, easy stovetop mac. This is not, your roux, butter flour mixture, put it in a pan, sprinkle some breadcrumbs over it, put it in the oven. We'll get to that. This is just in case you don't want to make boxed mac and cheese, but you're looking for a 15-minute meal. This is what you want to make. It's delicious. It is a totally different taste than your boxed mac. It's cheesier. Depending on what you put into it, you get a little bit of that mustard taste, which I actually really enjoy. But if you don't like that, you don't have to use it. But this is perfect. It's absolutely delicious. Look at how cheesy it is. Eat it quickly. After 10 minutes, yeah, it is going to start to clump up and harden a little bit, but that's just what cheese does without all the artificial stuff in it. So remember that. Keep it warm, and you'll be good to go. This is just a great mac and cheese dish to make at home.